I am in beautiful Alexandria, Virginia to visit the Old Presbyterian Meeting House. Now, this meeting house was originally established in 1775, but burned down and was rebuilt after 1837. And today there are some very important patriots laid to rest, and we're going to check them out. All right as you come into the Old Presbyterian Meeting House burial grounds, on the right near the wall, you'll see it looks like a more modern grave marker, but this is in memory of James Craik, Chief Physician and Surgeon of the Continental Army. He was born in 1727 in Scotland and died on February 4th, 1814 near Alexandria. And if you've studied about the American Revolution and the early colonial period, you've certainly heard of Dr. James Craik. Not only did he serve here throughout the French and Indian War in those early years with George Washington, but he was a close friend of George Washington throughout his entire life, to include throughout the American Revolution, in his later life after the war and during his presidency. And ultimately, Dr. Craik was with George Washington while he was on his deathbed. So very neat to pay my respects to Dr. James Craik, who I've read about in plenty of books and countless memoirs and other things. So I didn't realize he was buried here in Alexandria, but whether you've heard of him or not, he had a large role and major influence, not just before, during, and after the American Revolution, but also in the life of George Washington. Very neat. Just back here is the tomb of the unknown soldier of the American Revolution. Now, some of the background on this. In 1826, when nearby St. Mary's Roman Catholic Church was being built, they discovered a body of an unidentified man which was wearing a Revolutionary War uniform. The body was ultimately reinterred next door here within the bounds of the Old Presbyterian Meeting House grounds. And in memory of the remains of that unidentified soldier of the American Revolution, they decided to establish this tomb and this memorial here. And I know there is also the tomb of the unknown soldier of the Revolution in Philadelphia, which we visited before. So it is cool to see that there are other sites similar to that in other parts of the country. Perhaps no surprise here in historic Alexandria. Of course, we see the Sons of the American Revolution and Daughters of the American Revolution plaques here. And there's also an older plaque down here in memory of an unknown soldier of the American Revolution, erected by the National Society Children of the American Revolution, April 19th, 1929. And here's the grave of somebody I actually did not know was laid to rest here prior to visiting. This is the final resting place of John Carlyle, who was a signer of the Fairfax Resolves on July 18, 1774. Looks like we see a newer marker from the Sons of the American Revolution. And then I imagine this is probably the original pedestal grave marker. It's a sign of respect showing that he was an upstanding gentleman. And there's an older tablet on top. Here lies the body of Major John Carlyle. Very neat. And although this meeting house grounds are somewhat small, there are actually quite a few people buried here, to include a lot of Patriot soldiers and early members of the founding generation. So very cool and lots of history. Well, that was nice. It was a short but very interesting and educational visit to the Old Presbyterian Meeting House. Got to visit and pay my respects to some of the most important patriots in this area and in the country's history. Some of them you may have never heard of, but maybe you should have, and maybe I should have in that case. So I hope you learned a little bit along the way with me. If you're ever in Alexandria, there are a ton of historic cemeteries and meeting places such as this, where you can go and visit the graves of our patriots and of those who came before us. That's going to be it for this one. Now it's on to the next jury.